Guys, we're back. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. All of the mothers out there, all of the ladies, all of the females. Thank you for birthing us men. Thank you very much. But you know what? Let's go straight into the show. My name is Fabrice, and I'm the host of the Amateur Footballer Unhinged. And I've got some very special guests. And of course, you guys know Ray and like Jamal, but you know, we can have some special guests that I've now joined us on the panel. So guys, before we start, please introduce yourselves. And I'll start with you, Ryan.
Good evening. Firstly, thank you very much for having me on. Guys, I'm really looking forward to today and hearing everyone's opinions about what's been happening during lockdown. So I'm Ryan Locke, co-founder of Your First TV Sports. Your First TV Sports is an online platform promoting grassroots football and trying to give the community a voice to try and shape grassroots football going forward. Do a lot of podcasts. So during lockdown, we've been actually lucky to allow our studio to still be open, and we've allowed them teams to come on and try and promote as much as possible their club, their background, tell us ins and out, and what sort of people they're working with.
Amazing stuff. Jack, I'll go straight to you.
Yeah, so my name is Jack Osborne. I'm the chairman secretary of Caldicott Arms. I also run the most of the social media content, like YouTube channel and everything. In a nutshell, we've been playing for over 5 years now. Just love playing football, you know, typical Sunday league team. Just started recording our games, so there's a few aspects to how our clubs run. So yeah,
oh, great stuff. And then Ray, introduce yourself. Go on. Ray, can you please unmute yourself?
Sorry. I'm Ray.
Disaster already. Disaster.
Independent Vets Football Club. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Oh, come on, Raymond. Don't sell yourself short, man. Come on.
Fabrice, they've already heard enough about me. They're probably bored of me. So.
And last but no means least, Jamal.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Jamal Horn. I officiate on the National League, Premier League, the Premier League 2, and referee on the Premier League 3. And I am the London Cup organizer.
Cool, great stuff. And I just want to say thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Please get your questions in. Please like and subscribe to these guys' platforms. All of the details are going to be in the description. So again, thank you for all of you guys for taking part in today's show. So regarding like the title, COVID during football, let's kind of go straight into it. COVID, lockdown, and your experiences. Let's kind of start with Jack. What's been your experiences in this third lockdown?
So with this third lockdown, everyone will agree it's definitely been the hardest. What we've sort of done is we've gone into our social media content essentially. You know, we were recording our games from October onwards, and then when the lockdowns come in, we've obviously had a lot of content that we could, you know, post mini clips out. So we've been posting on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. We've basically just really gone in on the social media side. Through the lockdown. I mean, there's other aspects, you know, the lads haven't been able to play football, but on the plus side, they've had the content to be able to watch back. But like I say, you know, with this lockdown, it's definitely been the hardest. And I know that people are more, you know, they're really excited for when football returns. Like I say, it's almost like when they announced that football was coming back, everyone didn't realise, it's still over a month away, you know, and we've had that high, and now we're just waiting for it to come back, you know. I mean, we've got a week or two now till we're able to play again, and I think we've got a training session set for March the 29th. So, you know, with our lockdown, it's been more, you know, we've networked with yourself. We've come in here previously. You've reviewed one of our matches. It's been more the networking aspect on different social media. So, you know, with Twitter, we've linked up with loads of clubs, lots of channels, podcasts, you know, just all kinds of different people involved in the grassroots scene. And like I say, including yourself. And it's, you know, I think we're going to come out of this lockdown in a better position socially. Like I say, you know, we've done all this. We've sort of grown the club, and it's more so now. I just can't wait to start recording games again. To be fair, the content back out, and there's I know a lot of guys have got a lot of pent up frustration to let out on the football pitch. So can't wait to get back to it.
Yeah, great stuff. And Ryan, how's kind of lockdown been like for you and also for Your Fresh?
Do you know what it's made us? I think we were quite naive at one point and narrow-minded because our platform was basically recording Sunday League. So when COVID came in, it was sort of like, shit, what are we going to do now? There's no games to record. So you had to get created. We had to push out, again, as Jack just said, we dived into the archive and released a few bits that people didn't realise we still had, relied on that. And when that sort of content goes, it's sort of like, what can we do now with sort of staying in the government guidelines and things like that? And lucky enough for us, we was still allowed to use our studio where we film our podcast, which then allowed teams to come on and sort of try and promote who they are, their brand. And what it did also allow us to do that you probably won't get from a Sunday game is actually get to know people, backgrounds and things like that, and how much people's backgrounds are quite similar. People come from the same places and things like that, and how much we can actually help each other within the scene. Whereas when you go and record a game on a Sunday, it's very camera, mic, interviews. You don't really get to interact with people that much intimately. It's about football ultimately. So it's allowed us to get creative. I think on the flip side to that, away from Your Fresh, just generally coaching, it's been tough because it got to a point where I thought, if you don't keep yourself busy with trying to do your own personal development plans, it's almost like I forgot how to coach at some point. So I was like, hang on a minute. So it's just sort of like trying to stay busy. And I think it got to the point where this lockdown was a lot longer than the last one. It was sort of like knowing when to just take some time out for yourself and then knowing when to get back to work. Because so we had players running at the start of lockdown, and it become very apparent very quick, like if they do this for the full 12 weeks, by the time the end of the lockdown comes, they're not going to be enjoying it. So we sort of had to give them free ways to go, look, do your own thing, just keep posting in groups and things like that, whether you're doing your 10,000 steps a day or it's a 10-minute walk. But it's also allowed them to check in on players a lot more. There's a lot of me and V firstly at Your Fresh talk to each other every day, checking each other, and away from that at SCR, it's just checking each other in the group, the team around, team spirit. Everyone's talking a lot more and things like that. And obviously now we got the date. So what we try to do is buddy people up, so people that live close to each other go and do your bits together, so you're not doing bits by yourself. But this lockdown has definitely been a lot harder. I don't know whether it's because it's longer, I feel, than the last ones, definitely. Yeah. But it has, I think we've had to work hard, we've had to get creative, and for us, definitely at Your Fresh, the lockdown has actually helped us. As I said last week, we sort of were lucky enough to hit 10,000 followers, and it was something. It's just me, V, and a camera. Ultimately, we never knew that it will get this big and we can reach that many people. But it's just a pleasure getting to know people like yourselves in here and trying to build relationships to try and work together moving forward.
It's amazing, man. Amazing. Jamal, how has it been for you?
It's probably been a little bit easier for someone like myself. I had so much work to catch up on, so lockdown gave me that opportunity to catch up. And then on top of that, I still have to be on call for matches, so I still had to train, and I still had that motivation to train. I had at least 4 matches to officiate. But the good thing about it was similar to what Ryan just said. It gives you the opportunity to be more creative and sort of plan for the future. So that part has been quite good. It's been a good opportunity to get some rest as well. But at the same time, there's always that feeling of feeling caged in. You can't really experience your usual releases. You can't meet other people in the way you used to. So it has been a challenge. But just try to focus on channeling the lockdown to a massive sort of benefit.
Yeah, no, quality stuff. And Ray, as a kind of manager and of a vets team, how's it kind of been for the guys?
For us, it's been difficult. This last lockdown has been, as everyone said, it's been hard. In terms of us, we were kind of at a bit of a loss because where we literally got started this year, a lot of our content is based under our previous name. So it didn't seem right to be regurgitating or resharing that stuff. So a lot of us has been just almost. I mean, for me personally, I didn't think football was going to come back for this season. So a lot of it was more focused on next season, being prepared to when we start back hopefully in September, and just focusing on that. I think for us, especially, we're a very social team where we're at the older end of the spectrum. We do a lot in terms of we'll after games chill out, hang out. Like we usually would have our summer barbecues and things like that, and all of those things have been affected. So it's been challenging in the sense of just communicating over WhatsApp. I mean, like our group is normally quite vibrant to say the least.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's kind of kicked up, but it's just not the same. We've had a few Zoom calls, and that's helped. Just seeing the old faces and sitting down and just talking rubbish has helped. But yeah, it's been difficult. But as everyone said, with the light at the end of the tunnel, it's come back. It's kind of caught me out, and yeah, it's kind of a nervous energy's come back because now we're now having to think about playing in cup competitions again, and it's almost like a reset for us, especially when we went into Division 2, didn't quite know what to expect. It's like we almost had a free swing at it. So for me, it is giving me a good eyesight as to what we need, where we needed to strengthen as a team, as a club. It's allowed us to, and the wider club, it's allowed us to kind of do things that we wanted to do, in terms of we're trying to go for charity status. So Barry's done a lot behind the scenes to get the club ready. We're in the final stages of getting that sorted. So that's a positive step. We're in the process of getting the website sorted. So there's a lot that we've been able to get done in a short space of time. So I'm hoping we come out of this stronger and more robust, as it were. And I think a lot of us will count our blessings for what we had. I think you don't realize what you had until you're faced with this situation, that your normal vices to kind of get stress relief, relax, has been taken away. So I think we will be a little bit more grateful for that. And yeah, I hope we come out a bit stronger.
Yeah, no, you know, I can definitely echo your last comment. I think, you know, I think I'm a footballer first. I know Ray will probably disagree, but you know, I think I'm a footballer first, and then a content creator second. And you know, I think, you know, creating content, and of course, like the family, and then I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And then when it kind of comes to like a weekend, I'm like, shit, like I've got no place to kind of let out that kind of energy, whatever it is, if it's nervous energy, positive energy, negative, it's, you know, everything is just kind of compressed. And then when like things are compressed, then I let it out. And if it's a positive, then of course I let it out to the family. If it's negative, I let it out to the family. So you know, just trying to, well, for me anyway, I'm literally, you know, just excited just to put on my boots and just, you know, again, you know, if I play, I play. If I don't, it's just good just to see other people. Honestly, it's just good to see other people. So that's kind of my kind of 2 like pence. And actually, Ray, I'm gonna stick it on you straight away. I know that we're part of the Kent FA. Do you think they've actually done enough to protect grassroots football during COVID? You're on mute again.
Sorry. My first answer is no. I don't think they have. But then the second thought I have is, what would I have wanted them to do? And I think that's the bigger question. So in a sense of keeping us informed of what's happening, we all know the news is there, the government guidelines are there. I think now is the time where I think they haven't done as much in terms of helping us get started, helping us get prepared. Just, I don't know, checking in with us as managers, clubs. I think they could have done a bit more. And even if it's just things like Zoom calls with clubs to say, look, this is our plans for the future, this is what we have. Sometimes you get a lot of information through social media from people you know, as in Jamal. I know he was sending out, there was a chance that the London Cup was going to be cancelled for us. And from Jamal, we were hearing things and local people, but we didn't hear not one thing from the London FA in the sense of, this is what we want to do. What are your thoughts on it? And I just think it's a massive organisation, and I understand they've got a lot on their plates, but you kind of think in your small area of the world, it's important to us. So even if it's an email or something, just something to say, look, we understand you're going through this as well, and we're here to help if possible. But that being said, I could always reach out, I suppose, and find out what they have got. So I suppose it works both ways. It's a two-way street, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. And Ryan, love to kind of get your opinion about this subject.
I think for me, obviously with the Your Fresh stuff, we interact with Jamal through Your Fresh. We recorded the London Cup and things like that. But I think if you go where I'm joint first team manager at SCR, look, that sort of question, I was going to sit on the fence and deflect it to Jamal and say, when this happened, was there anything put in place to support clubs? That might seem apparent that the answer is no through what Ray just said, but was there anything from the FA where we went, look, we're in this shit here in the pandemic, we need to keep clubs active? Because at the minute, ultimately, it's us as individuals keeping our players engaged. But as a manager, as Ray said, you look, if players are looking up to us, we're looking for answers somewhere, and we didn't get them answers. So my question was going to be to you, Jamal, was there anything put in place, or was there supposed to be some sort of support mechanism for clubs, just for general information? As Ray just said, we've been given a date, and it's even, I'm like, right, that date, what does that date mean? Because to everyone, it's like, right, friendlies, matches, like it's just a date where everyone's going to go gun-ho. And I think we're in a pandemic, so it's sort of like, what happens if we all start going in this date and it's like, hang on a minute, cases on the rise again? It's just sort of like this. It's a real grey area. There's no clarity for me. So it's sort of like, then do we go in and then we as a club are like, well, you shouldn't have done that. And it's like, well, but we didn't know what to do, sort of thing. So that's what I would ask you, Jamal. Go on.
And sorry, there's one other thing that I wanted to add to what Ryan's saying. The other problem, pitches. Like the FA haven't told us anything about pitches, because you know a lot of the pitches are going to turn over to people who haven't got private grounds. It's going to turn over to cricket. So have the FA thought about that? Have they put anything in place to say these are pitches that we've organised you can go and try and get pitches here? Because that's going to be massive now, where people haven't got pitches and we've got fixtures. What happens next? So sorry, Ryan, but that just came.
That's right. Do you know what it is? I'm just looking at Jamal thinking.
You got a lot, but you know.
Sorry, Jamal.
No, you know what? Listen. You know, we have to put it on Jamal. You know, he's kind of representing the London FA. So if there's any questions that you guys want to say, fire them to Jamal.
That's what it was for me. It was just that when we were coming to the pandemic, was there conversations around the FA would have known clubs would have needed support? Some clubs are quite well run and they can generate themselves, but there's clubs that really have struggled. There's clubs that have folded. Was there anything put in place for these clubs?
Yeah, and before Jamal answers that, Jack, can you kind of give us some of like your experiences? Because you know, I know that you guys really kind of work within your local community.
Yeah, so obviously we're Birmingham County FA, so totally different area. In terms of, it's quite a complicated one, because I think about how they've supported us throughout the whole pandemic. So at the start of the season, they gave us reduced costs, reduced insurance fees. So they did subsidise a lot of costs for us to support us, as did our leagues. You know, they made the call to cancel our county cups at the start of the season, and to be honest, I think in hindsight it's the best idea, because I know obviously you've got the London Cup still going in London, but it also disrupts the league, if it makes sense. As much as cups, you know, everyone wants that big cup final day. You know, I think Birmingham FA in that sense made the right call. They stay in contact with us in the sense of they've sent us emails, you know, esports, for example, you know, FIFA tournaments, and they try to engage with us for emails, and I've got a few lads interested in entering that, but there's also a few other things where they've encouraged people to you can get support financially based on where you purchase from. And for us, it's not really the way we want to raise money, because you're sort of getting money if you spend at certain places. And that's, we're at the end of the day, we've sort of gone down our own route because we've grown as our own little club, with our content, and that we're able to get sponsorship funding elsewhere. So we're in a bit more of a secure position than other clubs. But there's also the issue where we've had our Vets League in rugby, that's been null and voided. Well, not null and voided. It's finished on a points per game system. The guys couldn't play once a week. They need 2 weeks to recover. It's where you have to, there's different aspects of grassroots football where you have to consider that. We've sat in the league meeting, and Division 1 and 2 open age have voted yes to continue the season, and the Vets have voted no. So you have to. It depends, like I say, in terms of the FA support, it's more the councils I look towards in terms of pitches. It's not the FAs, it's the councils. And while I know some pitches become cricket in the season, in the summer, cricket is restricted based on weather. So you can't delay the cricket season by a month, because the likelihood is they won't have a cricket season due to rain. And that's sort of like an old school tradition. In the summer, some of the goalposts go down and the cricket strips go up. Not everywhere, but we've also had the league contact myself about sort of using our home pitch for like league games. We've said to them, that it's not us, we can't do that. They have to speak to our local councils. So you can see where it's more initiatives been put on the leagues to sort of, if people want to agree to continue a season, they need to have really, mulled over everything, the whole bigger picture, because why agree to continue the season if there's not enough pitches at the end of the day? I think Birmingham FA have supported us as much as they can, but at the same time, I think if we, we're quite lucky in our sense. We've got our content, we're growing in our own community, because people are starting to notice what we're doing on a wider aspect, and so it's I say to say we're very lucky. We're very lucky compared to other teams. It's more the way I see it is a fourth lockdown is not something really that anyone wants to hear about. No one wants to talk about. I think we're all shitting it, let's face it, about a fourth lockdown, because I honestly, I dread to think. I just see a few lads in my own team walking away from football if there's another one. This one's almost, it's a lot of people. It's been a very testing time. Without football on Sunday, your personal issues come to the forefront. You don't have Sunday to vent, to take out on the pitch or stand on the sideline and support your team. We all support other teams. I'm a Leicester fan, but it's not filled the gap enough. I like Premier League, but I love Sunday League more. And without that, I imagine a lot of people have felt lost lately. And like I say, just can't wait to get back. I'm sorry, I know I've gone on a massive tangent, but
no, but it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Absolutely true what you're saying, Jamal, the man with the answers. So really kind of going back to what Ryan was saying, like what have the London FA done to like protect grassroots football, non-league football, to actually protect people like ourselves that just want to get back? Is it something that you like guys have now planned for? Hopefully not like further lockdowns.
That's the wrong question. The right question is, what can London FA or any local county FA do? And the answer is very, very little. I think when you look at how the structure works, you're looking at the government, then you have the DCMS, the Digital Culture, Media, Sport, who I didn't even, Department for Culture, Media, Sport, who I hadn't even heard of before the pandemic. And they'll be waiting for advice from the government. Then you have the FA, the National FA. They'll be waiting on advice from the DCMS. Then you have the county FAs. They'll be waiting for guidance from the National FA. So it's that filtering down system. And when you look at the policing of lockdown and any potential breach of restrictions, that really isn't down to the county FA to police. It's down to law enforcement. It's down to the council and local government. So there isn't actually a lot that county FAs can do. We do try to link up with organizations like the Football Foundation and Sport England to look at funding streams and what can we do to put in place to try to help clubs avoid being put in a position to fold and whatnot. But there's very, very little that a county FA can do. County FAs really just administrate football for sort of discipline, county cup competition, safeguarding. When you're looking at something as massive as a pandemic, there's very, very little that can be done. What do? We do what we can to keep in touch and offer that guidance. I think it is interesting how people feel that there isn't much of a support structure or a guidance structure there. It definitely is there. If you aren't aware of it, then we need to look at our communication, because clearly that communication isn't well enough. So in terms of regards to restrictions, you know, when like the rule of 6 and ensuring that you wipe down goalposts at halftime and only use changing rooms when necessary, and making sure there's hand sanitizers at all the facilities, things like that. I think that if that isn't out there enough, that we need to improve the level of communication to where that is streamed out. But even now, we're still waiting from the updated guidance. So people like yourselves will come and ask us, oh, what's the updated guidance? You know, 29th of March is literally around the corner. We want to start getting things put in place. We want to purchase sanitizer pumps. We want to purchase any sort of PPE that we need. We want to know. Then we have to go to the National FA. National FA come back up. Oh, we're still waiting for the DCMS. We can go to we're still waiting for the government. So we're at the lowest, most accessible level in football, but we're always waiting for those above us to filter it down. And I understand that we do have some time from now to the 29th of March, but like everyone else, you want information long before you need it so you can plan. So that's the position. There isn't actually a lot local county FAs can do, especially if there's a breach of restrictions. You know, we've had that recently. It's like, what do we charge teams? And then we charge them, then it's just a warning. And after another warning, we get in touch with their league or main competition, and then then after 3 warnings, then you can consider a fine. But there isn't actually a lot we can do. I'm not trying to make excuses, but the reality is, county FAs are just not built to deal with the pandemic. Most industries aren't. If we do have further reoccurrences of pandemics or lockdowns, then we'll be more and more prepared as we go along. But as of now, there isn't a lot county FAs can do.
Okay. Ryan and Ray, and actually Jack, are you happy with Jamal's answer?
No.
I've got followers. I'll let Ryan go first.
I see everyone's finger touch that unmute button. ASAP. You know that? I think my question would be for you. I think you are one of the people, Jamal, that has tried to provide answers. So my question to you: what would you do, or what could be done more to support us?
I think what's happening now is we have the leaders of our business have taken the stance that we're using leagues as an agent to speak for the clubs. Yeah. What I would prefer to do, and it isn't easy. I don't agree with senior management of London FA's stance towards it, but I definitely understand it. But I wouldn't be going through the leagues. I'd be going through the leagues and getting more in contact with the clubs, because a lot of clubs don't have good relationship with their leagues. Yeah, they don't necessarily want the leagues to be their mouthpiece. So I remember Jack mentioning something about county cups and should they have continued. I think it should be down to clubs to vote. It should be down to them. We should make it more of a democracy, because unfortunately, if you allow a small subset group of people to speak for the wider base of people refer to that as politics, red tape, and bureaucracy. And people don't want this. It makes you feel like a child again. And we shouldn't be making people feel like they're in those positions. So what I would do differently is definitely make yourself more accessible, and so where people can speak to us more directly and get a better feel of where things are and where things can be going. So I had to then practice what I preach, and that's why I created that Instagram account during the first lockdown, so I can make sure when it comes to the London Cup, when it comes to refereeing, people can know that I'm accessible. You know exactly how to reach me. You know exactly how to contact me. I'm producing regular content, so the page is active, and there isn't anything to hide. You might think you're asking me awkward questions. You might think you're bombarding me. Well, I wouldn't have come on the show if I couldn't handle it. I wouldn't go on social media if I couldn't handle it. A lot of good people in county FAs, football federations, around the world. Go on. And these are good people, skilled people, qualified people. But they can't really handle that pressure of being questioned. They don't like it. It distracts them. You know, they don't like that feeling, so they don't go on social media, and that's fair enough to them. You know, you've got to do what you're comfortable with. I don't mind it, but I'm coming from a different world. When you've been a footballer, when you've been on the ground, so to speak, you want people in positions of power who you can touch.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what I live by.
Ray, I know that you wanted to ask Jamal a question.
Yeah, my question to you is when, and I'm glad you touched on the whole point of not wanting leagues to speak for us, because at the end of the day, at the beginning, and this is not my question, but at the beginning of the season, our league said, okay, you can enter 2 cups and the league. And we were given, basically said we can't, basically that was handled like with a rod of iron. And then it's turned out now that the league has been cancelled, which I get, it's not their fault. But then now we're only in 2 cups when we weren't knocked out of the other one because we were forced to provide a bye to the other team. And so I think too much power was given to the leagues to make their own decisions. And I just felt, as a county FA, I would have liked to have seen a far more uniform approach. I think when you consider, like, as you said earlier, with the open age teams, some of them, or I think Jack said it, that some of the open age teams were able to vote to carry on their leagues, whereas our league just said, no, we're finished. So it's very much do as what we say, and that's it. And I think I would have liked to have seen a uniform approach. Just like when you look in the professional game and you look at down from, I think, what is it, National League, they said we're going to cancel everything, and it's uniform. There's no, oh, what are you doing? What are we doing? So how come you're allowed in these cups and we're not? And it just seems like you're being spoon-fed. And as you said, no one wants to feel that way. But getting back to my question, we've been given like a cup game on the 3rd of April, I think it is. Now, when you consider, we could start going again from the 29th, and we've got a cup game on the 3rd of April. Was anyone in the positions of power thinking when they said we're going to give teams a competitive fixture on the 3rd of April? So technically, if you're following the guidelines correctly, you can't train, you can't have any friendlies, and then you're thrust straight back in to competitive action. And as vets, I think it's a dangerous place to be in, because the bodies don't recover the way they did when you were 18, 19. And when you've come from a long period of inactivity, and now you're saying to people, go out there, sprint, run, your competitive nature kicks in, you're going to get, which I pray there's not, but we're going to get injuries. And I just think was enough thought put into the dates that they started making cup fixtures for. I know they've got a schedule that they've got to try and finish it by, but if that's the case, then surely the more responsible thing to do would have been cancel it. And that goes against what I want, because I want us to be playing again. But there has to be a method, like we're having a roadmap back to being open. There should have been a roadmap to us back playing football. And people thinking, well, people need to get themselves back in shape to play. They need to have some friendlies. And I just think there hasn't been enough thought.
Well, I provided a roadmap for the London Cup, per se. So that's why the teams returning to the London Cup don't have to play their first match until the deadline is the 18th of April. We have to allow some time for sort of training. So you kind of do preseason training in a way, and strength and conditioning, and that's important. So with some of the leagues that I know, they said for the 3rd and 4th of April, they've only put fixtures on for teams who agree to that. For the most part, majority of the leagues who are continuing will then restart on the 10th or the 11th of April. So I am a bit surprised that a different league has started on the 3rd of April without consulting their clubs first, because that's kind of been the uniform approach. But yeah, you're right. Injuries are very likely to happen on in that case. I know someone like my dad would say, "Oh well, it's the same for both teams." Okay, it is. But we're trying to prevent injuries. You know what it's like when you're running managing a team and you win the match, you get through to the next round, but Adam's injured, Callum's injured, and the cost of winning is a bit higher than you would have wanted to pay. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the roadmap, I provide a roadmap. this is the only country I've lived in where the leagues have this much power. I respect the leagues so much. I think a lot of the leagues have earned the power they have, but they have full autonomy. They are basically self-governing, especially the leagues that are very well run, and every sort of barrier or sort of hoop they have to jump through, they do so. They're very organized, very professionally run. And if they do everything that is asked by us in the National FA, there's nothing we can do. They will run their competitions. They will schedule the competition. They will call an AGM or SGM and vote amongst their committee and null and void competitions. I think null and void is like a cancer to football. Null and void should be last resort, and I feel as if it's been first resort far too often. I had to fight pretty hard to keep the London Cups on, because I just felt that's exactly what the clubs wanted. If the clubs didn't want it, I wouldn't have fought for it. And the unfortunately, I wasn't able to save the London Youth Cups. I was sleepless for a couple of nights. I know exactly what that cup means to youngsters. I know exactly what it meant to the clubs and to the parents. And unfortunately, I failed them. But it's all about giving people what they want. And for so many of us to think that football wouldn't even return for the season, then to us be given a gift saying end of March we can go back to football, and then the amount of competitions null and voiding, not even trying to get creative, not even creating another competition or trying a creative way of competing in the league, have null and void, and then now you're having several leagues in London alone who will have teams and players with no football to play in. That isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
The problem with knockout football.
I have something for that. League football is, as far as I'm concerned, league football is dying. League football was dying before COVID. If league football dies, no one can blame COVID-19. We have an issue with weather, something we can't control. We have an issue with pitch facilities, which is something that's very difficult to control. And until we get to a situation where it is in Spain, Germany, or Belgium, and there's literally a 3G pitch on every single corner, these are issues that we're going to continue to have. League football is nonsensical when you think about it practically. This isn't the Premier League. This isn't the EFL. 10 teams in a league and making sure everyone plays each other twice. Some leagues have divisions with 11 or 12 teams, and everyone needs to play each other twice. It isn't practical anymore, especially with the possibility of lockdowns adding into the restrictions with pitch facilities and poor weather. It just isn't on anymore.
Okay. Wow.
I'm sorry, I disagree with that totally.
Okay.
Sorry to hog the thing, but I'm sorry. That for me is unacceptable. At the end of the day, league football for me is still important.
Bread and butter.
Yeah, it's still important. It's the ultimate achievement still for me, that you've competed over a 9-month season and you come out victorious. I agree. Yeah, cup finals are wonderful, but to win a league says I'm the best in that division.
The league is a priority.
Yeah, it's a priority to us.
I think
they have told all local leagues around, within our district, that league takes precedent. No cup games can start until all leagues are completed or resolved, and that's what's happening. And Brian Clough said it once. The league always takes priority. It's the long haul season. It's what the season is based around. It's formed around league football.
Well, that's why you do a pre-season. Your pre-season is to get ready for your league.
Yeah,
that's why.
Listen, I just think this. You can't. League football is something that's quite old. For me, I think it's outdated personally. When you're looking from a competitive angle, of course, it's very difficult. Cup finals are special, but there's always something special about winning that league because it's very difficult to argue against. You win a cup, you get an easy draw, you can get a couple of buys. You can excuse how someone can win a cup. But when someone wins a league, especially if it's by a good point margin, you just can't argue. However, look at this from a grassroots. Remember what grassroots is supposed to be. It's supposed to be about participation and activity, okay, and then making sure that your league is potentially competitive. So if so is the case. Imagine if we cut out, which will never happen, but imagine if we cut out all cup football and we only had league football. You go in, you're organizing your team. It's taking you a while for your team to catch a rhythm. You lose your first 3 league games. Your league is now done. because you won't win. If you are in a competitive division, like some of the Woolwich and Elton divisions or the Overton and Bromley Premier Division, with SC Dons and Lambeth All-Stars, you lose your first 3 matches, your league is over. So then what are you playing for? So other than participation and exercise and potential release on mental health, which is massive, if you are a competitive person who wants to fight for honors and winning that huge title is gone. It's gone by September, by
I
October.
disagree with that. I
It's
disagree
gone.
with that.
If you lose a league match early on, you can't win the league.
Oh no, let the other two go first.
Okay,
Let the other two go first.
Ryan, go
on. So see for me, if I lose my first 3 league games, and me as a coach or a manager, I have to look at myself and change things. That's the art of having a league. There is, if you lose 1 game in a cup, you're out. What have I got to play for? For me, the league is the most important thing. And as I say, away from Grassroots, I said I'm at SCR. So we're in a situation now where we're at combined counties. We're 15 games in. We're top of the league, flying, and we have nothing to play for. Us winning that league moves us to the next level. So whether you're whatever league you're playing in, winning that league is moving you on to the next level. It proves you're the best. Whether you start badly or start really well, for me, leagues are super important. Like, that's what I was brought up on. That's what you train for. That's what your pre-season's for, is to win the league. If you can get to a cup final on the way, perfect. But our bread and butter is start of the year. We want to win that league. Unfortunately for us, as I said, we're combined counties. We're top of the league, and it's at the minute like, wow. To be null and void if it does.
Don't get me started on non-league, because I appreciate that level. And I tell you this, refereeing the matches from August to sort of November is excellent.
Yeah.
The competitiveness, and I mean from step 5, 6, all the way up to step 3, 4, step 2. After November, refereeing some of these league games, when you know certain teams are too strong to get relegated, good enough to maybe potentially flirt for the lower end of the playoff zone, which doesn't apply for step 5 and 6, which is part of the issue.
Yeah.
And after November, these teams are literally playing for nothing. That's the issue. Now, we've all been brought up on league football, and I'm coming in now to challenge that, because for me, what can we do to make each fixture that much more important? Because for me, from where I'm looking, it isn't like that. Now, knockout football isn't the answer, because exactly what you said. Okay, we have 6 knockout competitions. I lose all 6. My season's over in October. What do I do from then? So clearly, the answer is a hybrid between the two. Yes, the league structure is excellent. The principle behind the league is excellent if you have the resources of the Premier League or the EFL. We are now looking at potentially a lot of leagues are looking at 2 seasons, especially the non-league pyramid. 2 seasons now where a league hasn't been able to be completed. Now, unless is anyone willing to bet their savings account or their kidney that there won't be another lockdown? Is anyone confident of that? Because if you aren't, we have an issue with our league structure now.
Yeah, but that's going to be the same regardless of what we're playing in.
Not necessarily.
Over us.
Not
Even
necessarily.
if you had a 10-week tournament, you still can be affected by lockdown. You still can be affected by things. So that doesn't remove. There's nothing you can do to remove the problem. But the one thing you touched on when you said about the weather, as far as I'm concerned, that's a wider problem. And cutting leagues for us as Grassroots, that's not the answer for me. The answer is there's massive amounts of money above you within the FA, and I personally don't think they do enough to support Grassroots football. They don't filter enough money down. To me, it's too easy. It's too easy to pass the buck and say, okay, let's tweak Grassroots football. At the end of the day, the vast majority of people in Grassroots football will never be professional footballers. So the only thing you get that's like being a professional football is playing a league football. You can go down and play a tournament of goals and play a 10-week tournament of goals, and it just rotates over and over and over and over again. That's not the same. So you don't get that likeness of a professional feeling. The closest you get to it is a cup competition and a league, because although you play less games, it's still the same format. It's still the same 3 points that you're playing for over that same period of time. So you can't substitute that.
Tradition as well.
Yeah, you can't substitute that. And I get what you're saying, Jamal, and I know you're trying to think creatively, but the creative to me has to be how do we get in a position like Germany, like Belgium, like France, where they have 3G pitches all over, because they make it a priority. And if that means we start lobbying government, we start lobbying the FAs to say these are areas that are protected and we want to see pitches there, and we want to start investing in them so that they have better drainage, have better facilities, change rooms. I mean, you only need to go over to somewhere like America and see the standard of facilities they have there. And we're supposed to be on par with them, but we're still changing in rickety changing rooms. Whereas you look at their school level, their college level, they've got stadium boards and all sorts.
The
But we
university
don't have those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they decide to do something, they invest in it. But it's only us that think we're not going to actually invest in it, because grassroots teams put a lot of money towards the FA. We pay our money every year. We pay our fines. We pay this. We pay that. But there's not enough of it coming back down. It's too easy. It's too easy to just wash their hands of it and say, okay, let's tweak them a bit and let's let them have a 10-week season. Or
No, I just think what you, obviously, I would never argue what you're saying, because I actually agree. It's not even about understanding. I agree with you. It's more about what is easier to make the change. Now, us lobbying, even if we're successful with the lobbying, that's something you have to allot sort of 3 to 5 years for that. You know, you won't be able to get that change next season. So the question is, with the potential of the barriers that we have to deal with, the obstacles that we have to overcome, facilities, whether potential lockdowns, we have to look at newer ways to draw conclusions to competitions quicker. Non-league has been completely crippled. A beautiful semi-professional National League system, which is supposed to be a pyramid, has now just turned into a brick because there isn't any movement. And the people in the board and the committee are thinking the way you guys think, which is tradition. Tradition is beautiful. Oh, what's the best way to replicate the professional game, which is what we want to get to? Well, play in the format that they play in. But we don't have the resources. We don't have the resources, and we won't have those resources for a long time. We know the UK has an equivalent economy to Germany and Spain, and probably a superior economy to Belgium. So we know the money's there, but it's being allocated elsewhere rather than facilities. Because if you are investing in grassroots, you've got to invest in that, and then people are going to say, well, what sort of return are we going to get? Are we going to get then what sort of World Cup competing national teams? Well, people say, well, we already have that. What are we getting in return for that? Oh, well, it was improved mental health. It's well, but football isn't stopped now. Football's still being played, including lockdowns. What are they going to get for that increased allocation of funds? I always get told, oh, all the money in the Premier League, why isn't it filtering down? People don't understand. The Premier League and the FA are two completely different organizations. You know, they're not linked like that. There is a link, but they aren't linked like that. And the Premier League is a business. And you think about why would Roman Abramovich, you know, why would he just invest 200 million in grassroots football for Sheffield and Cornwall and South London? You know, where's the return? So
you force them.
I don't think it will happen. It can happen, and what you just said is a good idea. I think that will happen. It will happen more and more, and we will get more facilities. But until then, what can we do to draw conclusions? Ryan Locke, okay, so Mo Valley, Sutton Common Rovers, #United, Jersey Bulls, all these elite non-league teams who were running away with their leagues, who deserve to get to the next level of the pyramid. If someone like myself, if they have a plan to where I could have completed the competition sooner, to where when a lockdown comes, it's just a disruption rather than a cessation where something completely stops. What to look into that? We can't be saying, no, tradition, we've always played league football, Preston North End, 1886, Notts County, 1912. Oh, come on. We've got to look at it.
Wow. Okay. Well, you know what? This is a topic that can really kind of run. So again, thank you for everyone's opinions. Let's kind of go straight to the next bullet point. And you know what, Ryan, I'm going to go straight to you. So of course, you know, as like the kind of your fresh empire grows, how has kind of social media or literally kind of COVID, I'm not gonna say helped social media, but I mean, have you kind of seen, of course, like the kind of positive sides and the kind of negative sides? Do you like think there's certain individuals that have kind of relied on certain kind of social media to kind of not can only get the positive messages across, but also negative stuff and kind of controversial stuff? What is your opinion?
what the facts are, we live in a modern day society where it's based on social media now. Everything is everywhere. So to not use social media in a positive way during lockdown, you'll be stupid not to, especially if you have a platform like ours that is a social media platform. Being engrossed in social media too much can have negative effects, and that's, for me, that's sort of like when you see I'm the face. He does a lot of the social media stuff. He's engrossed in it. I struggle sometimes with this, being involved in social media all the time. I find it quite tough. But one thing we have done through COVID is use a negative situation, being the pandemic, and turn it into a positive. We have become a platform for the people to provide entertainment. Okay, we had London South Vets. Who are London South Vets? You see faces there. You had ex-pros. Oh, I didn't know he played there. So what we've actually done is use the positive of the negative of pandemic, and we've built our platform on that. And so really, COVID's propelled us to the next level through social media. For us, it was just about being really busy, having that work rate. I think when you look at the social media page, V works tirelessly. The amount of content he puts out daily, I have to say to V sometimes, well, you have to have a rest sometimes, because being engrossed in it all the time.
Nah, no resting, Brad. No resting.
Have to have a break.
Yeah, look and see you.
Listen, like, you gotta take a break, man. Like, you know.
But do you know what it is? As I said, the reason I say you have a break, because if we weren't in a pandemic, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of other things going on. For me, I work for Chelsea FC Foundation. I work in a prison, so Monday to Friday, that's my getaway, because I can't take a phone in a prison. So that's my sort of break from it, and I come out and I've got 300 notifications because V's been peppering the life out the timeline on Twitter or Instagram. But for me, it was a blessing because I learned a lot about myself. But in terms of propelling my platform to the next level, COVID really helped us. So it's just proof that turning a negative situation into a positive. And yeah, we're rolling, man. We will go on to bigger and better things. We've got a lot of things in the pipeline that I can't even drop no exclusives just yet. But there's some big things coming. But for me, the links and the people I've met through lockdown, through social media, has been big for me. Like, generally, it's very cliche and tacky, but you make lifelong friends, and that's what I have done. Is reached out. It's allowed me to network with other people. Even now, new faces. It's okay. Let me go and look at the page. Let me follow, and that's what it's about. Because ultimately, we're in an era where everyone works in silos. Oh, this is me. You're fresh. We don't know. We don't want to work with you. No, we want to work with people. Yeah, because our platform is for you guys. It's for the people. Yeah, you guys make it work. You guys follow us. You guys like our videos. If you guys don't come on, you'd have to look at me and V every week. You know, so and that's what it's about for me. So it's allowed me to get to know a lot of people. It's broadened my knowledge of Grassroots and Sunday League even more as well. And the only downfall is that people have to look at me every week and talk. But I think for me, as I said, in terms of the down days, I think what I've learned in COVID is it's okay to have a shit day. Everyone has a shit day, and that's it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a bad day is a bad day. Just don't let that bad day turn into 2, 3, 4, 5. Try and break that cycle. And sometimes it is social media when you're constantly engrossed and you're seeing a lot of negativity through social media. It's hard to come away from it because it's around you all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, cool. And that Jack, I know that you are literally, I'd say, like the kind of main like guy that literally does a lot of the Caldecott social media content. I mean, how have like you seen social media help you help like the club, and literally what kind of networks and like things have kind of you like seen during COVID?
So it's almost like you have to talk about Caldecott as a content channel and then Caldecott as a club. So because obviously, you know, they do, when you talk to people, they become their own sort of entities. With the content, it's been, like I say, with this lockdown, me and James was talking about earlier, and my brother James does the Instagram, by the way. He does a lot of so anyone who messages us through the Instagram, you're talking to my brother, but he's my twin brother. He looks just like me, so you know, you're getting the same sort of vibe. But we went really aggressive with our content, and at first we were sharing all our goals. And in the recent weeks, we were like, well, we've only got the 1,000 tackles to sort of share now. So anyone who's seen our recent content might think, oh, they're a bit of a rough club. And it's like, no, we're just sharing all our 1,000 tackles now. The goals are further back. But in terms of, I mean, I'm a big advocate of Twitter, especially linking it with a lot of the other teams we have through lockdown. It's not just linking with clubs, because at the end of the day, you're messaging one person behind that team, and they speak volumes for the club. And it's talking to good people as well. That's the most important thing. You vibe with good people, good characters, good personalities. You talk to people who can sort of see it from your point of view. So, you know, I'm the cameraman, but I'm also secretary, and you know, I do all the background aspects of the club. I've got a manager in who helps manage the team on Sundays to allow me to do that. So it's been, like I say, it's been, we've thrived through this lockdown in that sense. We've built our following on multiple channels. You know, we started up on TikTok. I know You're Fresh have also been on TikTok, and took you a little while to grow, but you've gone now, haven't you? It's getting there, isn't it? You know.
Do you know what? It's mind blowing that we put out some real good content, and one thing I've had to look at is you get engrossed in the views, or how many views has it got?
Oh, hashtags are a nightmare, aren't they? You can have a gold clip and it won't even go because of what you're using on it.
We released a clip, and I think it's on 1.9 million views, and it's Ronaldo, but Ronaldo running into Alexandra, and I'm like, well, I get it's Ronaldo, but there's so much.
Yeah, it blew up.
It's got 1.9 million views. To me, that's mind-boggling. I'm like, how? Why? Like, do you know what I mean? But that's just the power of social media.
Maybe I should post a Ronaldo video.
Oh, amazing. And like Ray, I mean, with kind of Independent FC, you know, there's a kind of new platform, and you know, you are kind of now creating content. I mean, how do you see that the club use social media not only for like this season, but you know, season 2021 and beyond?
Well, for us, we started in the beginning, and we were like guns blazing. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. We were posting stuff up, and I think for us, especially because of where I've done most of the Instagram stuff, I will say it, lost the energy for it, and then we started focusing on different things in regards to trying to sort out other background stuff with the club. And I don't think, well, as I said, we didn't do as much as everyone else in regards to social media. For us especially, social media is more of a byproduct of us playing. What we did do, and thank you to you, where we came on this show, and that just happened through the WhatsApp chat, it's kind of given us a chance to kind of almost develop a hunger for it again. And doing this show has given us a platform to say, get our voices out there. And I don't know if people see us and think, you know what, they're not such bad guys after all. We're like just everyone else. And I think I've preferred this platform as opposed to Instagram and what have you, because it gives you a chance to people to see. I mean, there'll be some people that will think he's a mouthy, what's it not? Or there'll something, he's not such a bad guy. So it's almost like the personal touch from a distance that this has given us. And I think I wish we had done more things like podcasts, interviews throughout lockdown. If I had it to do again, I would probably have done that more, and then started sharing that as a sense. I pray that I never have to use that kind of mindset again, because I pray we don't go back into it. But I think if we do, that's something I would definitely do, because this has been good. And as Jack and Ryan have both said, this has been a good period of where you see people that you don't necessarily meet. You don't necessarily, I mean, I've seen You're Fresh on YouTube, and yeah, you see him with the mic, you see him doing stuff, but this is the first time I'm having an interaction. Jamal, I heard his name, and I kind of, Jamal, can you look at the camera, please? Yeah, I heard his name. Kind of, you know, you get to meet him, and yeah, he's got his moments, but he's not such a bad guy. He's kind of all right. So for that, I'm grateful for lockdown in that regard, because these are links that hopefully you build upon. So when we start playing again, when we're out and about and we see each other, hopefully now you can look and say, you know what, yeah, we're saying, and it builds bridges. It builds bridges, and hopefully in the future it benefits us all where we start actually cross linking. So yeah, in that regard, social media's been good.
Tabrice, you're on mute. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, Tabrice, unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Jamal, what do you kind of look for regarding like like a social media account? I'm talking about football accounts, grassroots football accounts, services, brands. Like, what is it that kind of catches your eye?
Well, yeah, I mean, I run my referee page. I partially run the London FA Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok pages. So I think it is what it is, man. Social media is its own economy, and basically views, likes, engagement is the currency. And I understand some people who don't like social media; they can find it draining. I get it, but whether you like it or not, it is the key. It's the key moving forward to. I've used it to attract sponsors for London Cups, so on and so forth, and it's great for communication, spreading the word. I mean, what I look for is just good quality content. I love the nostalgia element from some pages. It goes back to sort of when I was young, and focusing on players who I looked up to a lot when I was younger. Patrick Vieira, Roy Keane, R9, Romario, those sort of players. So I love pages like that. I love pages that keep me up to date with things going on in non-league, that as well. And then something that I've picked up on a lot since the first lockdown was what I refer to as elite grassroots, which is the sort of where that sort of non-league world and that grassroots world sort of kind of overlap. And that's the SC Dons, the Rising Bullers, Commodity Strikers, those sort of teams, and there's a pretty long list. So those are the three sort of main aspects that I look for that gets the majority of my attention on social media. Because someone in my position, you've always got to look for ways to engage. What can I do to encourage more people into refereeing? What can I do to make competitions more exciting? What can I do to make competitions more competitive? So I'm always looking for sort of inspiration in regards to that through social media.
Yeah, and I mean, again, my own quick 2 pence regarding social media and like COVID. I mean, hey, like, I've kind of worked on like a few things. I've got crazy amounts of content that I've not even put out, and it's kind of just trying to find that happy kind of medium in terms of kind of putting like stuff out that I think is going to be what the audience want, and then of course, making kind of content, which again, like, let's be real, which sometimes hasn't got to be strategic. And yeah, listen, I'm not afraid to even say, like, I've kind of suffered burnout, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to post for a couple of days. I mean, hey, like, it's not going to kill the platform. It's literally not going to stop people following me. And of course, yeah, kind of opportunities come, and then like you think, okay, is it like the right platform, or literally, is it like the right situation or the right business? And then of course trying to help as many people as possible. I'm again, exactly what I said before, I'm a kind of footballer first, and then a content creator second. So it's kind of trying to find that kind of happy like medium, and like doing like these kind of live debates. This is kind of something that I probably wouldn't have done, if it wasn't because of like the lockdown. So, again, this has just been like an opportunity for me to actually meet everyone here, and to kind of give you guys also like a platform to promote and elevate your like brands as well. So, it is a love-hate, hate relationship, but you do have to love it. Like, you've got to embrace it if you kind of really want to make something, or from your platform, whatever it is. You kind of have to literally kind of take off that helmet and ride that motorbike almost be prepared to like crash and hurt yourself, but also to dust yourself down and get up, get back on that bike, and then just kind of keep on riding. Hopefully that kind of makes sense.
To learn.
Sorry?
You have to fall off your bike a few times to learn, don't you?
100%. And I'm still learning. So let's kind of go to the last point, the future of grassroots football. Again, I'm gonna start with you, Jamal. What would kind of you like to see moving forward? I know that you could have mentioned league football and like the kind of death, quote unquote, of like league and football, but what would you like to see moving forward?
I think the way I think of the future of competitions is a bit more specific, more general, more broad would be, I think overall we need to focus more on bridging gaps, the gaps between sort of like we said earlier, between clubs and county FAs, the gaps between referees and players, and the gaps between clubs and competition organizers. I think right now we aren't utilizing that. I think there's a bit of a age generational gap and a culture generational gap, and that needs to be sort of reduced. I think more people need to make themselves more accessible. More people in terms of power need to make themselves more accessible, and then we need to be making this much more of a democratic. I think grassroots football overall needs to be run more democratically. I know there's a lot of democracy, so I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying that level of that needs to increase, more consultation, because if competitions aren't being run the way it could be, that's part of the issue. If players and referees, that player-referee relationship isn't as good as it could be, then we need to work on that. Right now, I think football is too tribal, and that's where social media is making things beautiful, because it's making it less tribal and making us, and I know it sounds so cliche, but we all need to come more together as one, but the reality is, once we can do that, it does make the future of grassroots football potentially a much better place than it is now.
Cool. Ray, same question to you.
I have my hopes. My hopes for grassroots football is that we come out of this stronger. We come out of this more robust and more determined to keep going with it. I do worry for it in the sense of, I think it's been hanging on by a thread for a long time, in the sense of, depending on what level you are at grassroots football, is dependent on facilities is going to be the death of us or the success. And I think a lot of the time, I think it's been ignored for too long. And I worry that this pandemic is going to be the sword that's used to cut it. And I understand, especially from Jamal, that he's trying to think of creative ways to keep us going and help us. And ultimately, it's coming from a good place. But I think that can be the stick that people have used to get rid of us, in the sense of, oh, yeah, Jamal, I think that's a great idea. What we can do is now start cutting away and eroding away what grassroots football is. I get some people say, oh, it's about participation and all of that, but it's not just participation. There are some of us that are still competitive with it. We still push to be the best we can be. So it's not just about participation. If I want to participate, I can go down to somewhere like Goals and just have a knock around with some mates. The reason why we go through this headache, this stress of doing paperwork and with the FA is to mimic professional football. It is to succeed. And I think unless we get funding from the higher sources to give us the facilities we need, I think COVID could be the stick that's used to get rid of us. So I think in terms of the social media aspect, I think we are more close together. I agree 100% with Jamal when he says that we've been tribal, in the sense of we've stayed in our own little bubbles, our own little fish pond, whether it be in South London, South East London, or North London, or Birmingham, wherever. And social media, we've been forced to bridge those gaps. But I think we can use those bridges to have a louder voice, so that when if we do come under threat, we use those links to fight back, to get our point out there. that we don't want to go anywhere. We don't want you to alter the way we play. What we want you to do is look for solutions to allow us to continue playing that way, not try to maneuver us to fit what you're changing us into. So, yeah, I hope it's good, but I do have worries. So,
Jack, same question.
So in terms of when coming back from COVID and that, I see it as, you know, the last year or two has been unprecedented. You know, FA, teams, clubs, players, us as people, you know, we've all had something to deal with that we've never dealt with before. In terms of the long-term aspect of grassroots football, I think that the bigger issue is actually the amount of pitches available. You know, I've seen it locally where we've lost a lot of pitches over the years. I'm not sure how the situation is in other areas. You know, we don't have Hackney Marshes in rugby, so we're not very lucky in that sense. I worry in a sense of I think grassroots football in the next few years has to evolve in some aspect, and I think that comes through potentially leagues and district leagues merging in a nutshell. So like we're neighboured with Leamington and Coventry. To protect the future of grassroots football, maybe a few districts need to merge together. The issue I have there where you've got a chairman and secretary of two separate leagues. They need to come together in that sense. This is no, I'm talking in the next decade or so. There is a bigger picture with grassroots football. There are people out there who don't. I mean, I don't want to sound negative, but there are people out there that see it as, oh, it's just Sunday League. We're the first ones to get pushed to the side, essentially, because, you know, we're not going to make it as pros. And it's not even about that. It's not about making it professional. There's a lot of tradition with the league. You know, a lot of leagues formed after after World War II, or re-established, because a lot of leagues have history going back before World War II days. And it's, you know, there is an issue of protecting we want to protect our traditions associated with the league. Because a lot of people's granddads might have even played in these leagues. And, you know, with our local league, for example, I know the people who previously ran it had looked after it for the last 35 years. And it was their baby in a nutshell. And with the modernisation of football, they weren't able to keep up with the current trends in a nutshell. And a few of us took over the league and we didn't know anything about it. You literally learned the rules as we went. But luckily for us, you know, I do think Birmingham County FA are brilliant in terms of supporting clubs. Anyone who says they haven't rang them up and actually spoke to them on the phone about their issues. They're very supportive. Like I say, the issue with grassroots football is, how is it going to evolve in the future? It needs to be a big evolution in that sense. You know, we can keep our district leagues and that, but in this day and age, the area can be wider. Instead of this small, it can be a lot bigger. So you can link up with more teams, neighbouring districts, neighbouring areas. And I mean, you get this anyway with certain county cups, London cups and stuff. You know, have they ever thought of a London league? I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't look on that wide of a scale, but like I say, in terms of evolution of grassroots football, leagues need to band together, because that brings a lot of clubs together, a lot of players together, different areas together, and you're able to source different pitches, different facilities as well. You know, there's a whole bigger picture of it, and part of me does feel that, you know, some of us are out there defending grassroots football. You know, we've all heard the cliche, it's only Sunday League football. It is football nonetheless, and you know, our mentality is the same whether it's professional or Sunday League grassroots football, and that's how it should be approached. You know, I know some of you guys as well agree. It's the competitive nature, and that's what we want. You know, we're not turning up to play friendlies every Sunday. We're turning up to compete, and at the end of the season, when you've played, you know, you could play 10, 20 games, 30 games, depending on your league size. If you've won something that season, you know, you've earned it. And it's also the journey you go on as a team together. You know, there's a whole bigger picture with grassroots football. You know, we're a team who we consider ourselves as friends. You know, we're all good mates with each other. We all speak on the side. We don't just speak on Sundays on the pitch side and then go home afterwards. You know, we all actually want to get to know each other. And if none of that's protected in the future, if there isn't a long-term plan for grassroots football, then I think we will start losing more pitches. The way I see it locally, if we lose 1 or 2 more pitches, then there's no room for expansion. And the league in rugby is expanding. There's 4 more teams joining next season. They're building new villages on the outskirts of the town. And I've looked at the blueprints and you know, the plans, and there's no football pitches. And I'm posing that question to them to say, you know, where are the grassroots football pitches for the kids and the adults? You know, grassroots football doesn't cover just certain age limits. It covers vets, kids, adults. You know, it goes to all aspects. We are grassroots and we're all in it together. I'm trying to think of anything more to add to that, but again, you know, massive tangent. Gone from one.
No. You know, that's amazing. That's actually amazing. Exactly what you said. And Ryan, I'm going to leave like the last point to you. So yeah, again, like the future of grassroots football.
I agree with what everyone else said.
No, come on, Ryan.
Do you know what I think? When I played and coach managed now, I think, I don't know whether it's harsh to say that. Jack, you just said it about leagues. You said people looked after a league for 35 years. And one of the key things you just said to me them is they got to a point where they had to pass it over because they felt they couldn't keep up with the times. For me, that's good practice. That's good work. And I think in football, there's a lot of people who aren't relevant no more. Football's moved forward as a game and as a sport. And if you can't move forward with it, and you can't be relevant, it's really hard to stay in touch. And that's where these barriers come from, like Jamal just said, because you've got people that don't understand the next generation coming through and things like that. So I think relevance is key to keep people engaged. We need more facilities, as Ray said, because when I was younger, I felt like there was a cage or something everywhere. And now there's just not enough. So if there's not enough pitches, there's not enough people engaging if we haven't got enough pitches. And if people aren't engaging, what are they doing? And I think we will know the question there is, so can more be done? 1,000,000%. I think the key is the future is bright. Someone just put a comment in, it is bright, but it's only bright if we make it bright enough. It is everyone needs to muck in and try and make a change. But ultimately, how much change can we make here? How much of our ideas are taken on board up there? And that up there that's where it's implemented. That's my thing. How many forums are there where we're sitting in a room together and going, you know what? What is it you think you want? And you're taking on board our ideas. The ones are maybe I'm from South London, where there's a lot of areas where you think they need pitches, they need football, they need an outlet. There's a 3G pitch there, it's locked up. Why is it locked? Why? You know, things like that. It looked after. How many pitches you got now? You people walking their dog and the dog shitting on your pitch and think like, let's look after these things because these kids are the future. The kids that are coming into the game are our future, and we don't look after them enough. I don't think, not us, but up there. So I just think it needs to be more relevant up there because the closer we are from here, the gap isn't that big then up there. So it's not.
They can't see that, Ryan. Think about it. They can't see it, but that is there's a lot of ballers.
Yeah.
It has to be the best non-league system in the world. There's probably about 6-7 divisions worth of professional players in this country, and there's space for 4 divisions. The National League Premier is basically a full-time division. National League South and North is basically partially full-time. Yeah. So people at the top, they're thinking there are ballers everywhere, and there are. And then what are they looking at? Okay, they're looking. We'll go below the National League system. Okay, we'll go to the elite grassroots. And they'll be saying there's a lot of ballers out there as well. We don't need to make any changes. We finished 4th at the last World Cup. We'll be competitive in the Nations League. We'll be competitive in the Euros. We have 7 divisions worth of professional players. Why do we need to invest any more in grassroots? That's what they're thinking. But that's, it's not like Spain. It's not like Spain or Germany or Belgium in particular, who had years and years and years of a lack of success at national level. So they felt they had to make that investment. Here, if you think about it, if you actually think about it, we put people like yourselves and Ray and whoever else in charge, you think to yourself, why do we need to make that change? For a bunch of people who play for fun, who we think just play just for fun, just so we want to build 3G pitches for
Could I just add something there, please?
Independent FC, really? What's that going to do for the Premier League? What's that going to do for the National League? What's that even going to do for the
Could I
combined?
just add something, please?
That's the mentality. That's the mentality being adopted.
That is the mentality. But what implementing things like, and I'm talking from a community level now, what implementing 3G pitches does. Now I'm at Sutton. Do you know what that 3G does for the community? How many young people engage there every week? How many people want to go there? Ultimately, when you build facilities like that, and this is going to sound, it saves lives because people have a purpose, an outlet every day. I've had a shit day at school. We live in a society where we have to think about them elements now in football because it's very much part of the game. And
you have to think about it. I have to.
No, you see,
Ray has to think about it.
That's
the people. No, you get, of course, it's unacceptable.
That's unacceptable.
We all agree on that. But the people who are in charge of this, the people who have power of that, how can they think about street life? How can they?
But that's what they have to do. That's their job.
They will, but they haven't had to.
In their league.
Ray, go on, sorry.
The thing is, Jamal, they have to think about that. And it's unacceptable to alleviate them from that responsibility. The responsibility is there for them to provide for us, supposedly, who don't have that voice. Now, at the end of the day, you talk about success at national tournaments and what have you, and that's all great. But you mentioned Germany, that they hadn't had success for. That's wrong. Germany had success before us, after us, in terms of after England, and they've had success since. But the fact of the matter is they were proactive. When they didn't do as well as they wanted to do, they were immediately proactive. And they looked at the whole game holistically, as opposed to with a narrow vision. Let me just look at the professional game and assume that like a professional player is just born. It's just immediate. They don't look at it as a lot of the professional players that are out now lighting stadiums up. They started on grassroots pitches.
Oh, I hate when people say that.
No, but that's what they did. That's what they did. Ultimately, no, you can't hate it, Jamal. You know why you can't hate it? Because you look at Jamal. Because you look at an 8-year-old. It is true because you look at an 8-year-old boy. An 8-year-old boy comes to an amateur, a grassroots team. His local team. He's trained by a local coach. He then goes through the steps. You look at George, who we had on the show last 3 weeks ago. He started at Independent as a 10-year-old. Through working with Barry, he went through the system and ended up at the very top. So you're ignorant if you believe that these professional players don't start. Hold on, Jamal. We're ignorant if we feel that grassroots doesn't play a part in creating these professional footballers. It plays a massive part. But ultimately, as Ryan said, you look at it as it's not just about the sporting aspect. It's about the community-based asset of it all. Now, you look at, you ask where the money can come from. You look at governments where they're building housing developments and they're building things and they put onto it
all they want to build.
Agreements that they have to build roads. They have to build other things like hospitals, schools. Why are we not tacking on, you have to build a sports facility for the local community? Why are we not tacking those things on? There's so many different avenues where we can then get access to, when people want to make money out of the local community, put something back in the local community, whether it be a sports pitch, whether it be a 3G pitch that's open to all, not just the elite few. There's loads of pitches you look at, even you look at schools when they're building academies and they've got massive 3G pitches. They're locked up on a Saturday and Sunday. You ring them up and say, can I hire them? We don't hire them. You look at somewhere like, Dulwich College. You drive past there on a Saturday and they've got 5 beautiful paper grass, like flat pitches, but there's no recourse for them to, they're not encouraged. But they're not encouraged to let them out.
Hold on, what's the difference? Because Dulwich, that's a great example, right? But you can go by a professional training ground. Choose any professional club you want. You drive on Sunday, everyone's day off, the pitch is open. Why don't they just allow everyone to go in there and play? Now, I think
they're not forced to. If I'm not forced to do something, I won't do it.
Yeah, but how could you, if you're trying to, economically, if you're trying to encourage private enterprise, you really shouldn't be forcing people to do things that they don't see a benefit towards. Now, where things have worked, where if you study sort of CSR, corporate social responsibility, companies that are, the biggest companies in the world, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, whatever, you're trying to say, okay, your profits are so huge. You really should be putting 1%, 2% to the local community, because without the local community, you don't have a business. But the issue is with the Premier League in particular, the Premier League don't actually need, the problem with it is highlighted that it doesn't technically need the local community. It can be supported
But of
by
course it does.
outside
Of course
of
it
that.
does. Who goes to the games?
No.
Who
So-
goes to the games?
Premier League team.
There's been no spectators, and what's happened to the Premier League?
Yeah,
Nothing.
but
Fine.
you say
That's the
nothing, but
issue.
no, you say nothing. But a lot of those Premier League clubs are now getting loans. They're requiring
Yeah,
loans
no,
from
no.
government
It's
because
had
they
an
are
impact.
struggling without that. Exactly. So
It's had an impact.
you can't say it's not had any impact. It's had a
And
massive
remember,
impact on them. And so
These
at the end of the day,
aren't my views. I'm trying to give you guys the
Yeah,
views.
yeah.
The way
I
how
understand
people
it.
think, you know,
I
so the thing is
understand
this.
but those views have to be challenged.
Of course they do, and I'm in a position to challenge them. I challenge them.
But it shouldn't just
trying
be
to-
you.
what I'm
It
trying
shouldn't
to
just
do
be you. It should be an
is-
open conversation.
It shouldn't be just me, because not only the issue of the position I'm in, I'm not even English. I'm foreign. I shouldn't be fighting battles forehand. But in a way, I feel as if I'm either lucky or even chosen in a way. I'm in that position. I speak for what I believe the people would want. However, I make sure to all of you to get you battle ready, because the way we're thinking now, some of the common things. Oh, why don't the Premier League put any money, more money into grassroots? Oh, every professional footballer has come through grassroots. Stop saying these things.
No, I didn't say every. I
No,
didn't say
I'm-
every.
let
But
me
where
out.
do they start?
No,
from?
not you. It's not you. It's not
Yeah,
you. Because what people think is they think, oh, a player has got to under 18s playing for Mugford Rovers or Stanley Lions and then got signed by Arsenal at 19 and then played Champions League. That doesn't happen.
No, but where do they start?
We're talking
say
about
that.
any elite professional player.
They leave
They
2
got
years
taken
ago.
by a professional club from a very, very young age.
From where?
Okay, from grassroots. But
So then that's the point. That's the
The
point.
impression- we know- we
You
know-
can't say they don't.
we know what the truth is, okay? And the truth is every professional player comes through a grassroots. But
That's what I said.
the problem is how it's viewed is if you've come through, obviously you have to start somewhere. For people in those positions, getting signed by a professional club at 8, 9 years old, that player doesn't count as coming through grassroots. You know what I'm saying? And I don't agree with that, but I can understand it, because you cannot say Theo Walcott was playing, Wayne Rooney was playing grassroots until he was 17, got signed by Southampton, got signed by Everton, and became to play for England. Any elite player, professional player would have been in the professional setup before they even hit double digits of age.
That's absolute madness, Jamal. That's absolute madness. If that's
How
the
is
case,
that-
Hold on,
the reason why-
hold on. Sorry.
Jack's
Hold
been
on.
waiting
Yeah,
to go.
yeah,
Let Jack
yeah,
go.
Jack,
I'm
go on
gonna
in.
take you on in a minute.
I was just going to say, there are such things as late bloomers. I mean, I was saying it earlier. A player come on for Sheffield United today who 2 years ago was apparently playing Sunday League. So
Yeah, Ilias is a
anything
rising boy.
possible. It's down to work rate. I've seen players in Sunday League and they're cracking players, and I've sort of thought he's got the fitness, and that's the most important part, the fitness. But I've seen players who I think, you know what, they could probably do it at a higher level if they had the drive and the motivation, which is where a lot of people fall away from the professional game. Some of the, I always say it's a bit of a joke, but some of the best players in the world play Sunday League. They just never actually got their opportunity at a top level. You get people as well whose metabolism doesn't allow them to get so far in the professional game. I've known guys who've been on the books at Premier League clubs, and as soon as they've turned 18, their bodies have changed and they've been released as a result. And I've seen them play grassroots. I've seen them play on Sundays. It gives an opportunity for people who do fall away for whatever reason. There's kids who are 16, they're like me, slim, but then 18, boom, they grow in size. They're quite stocky, and they're not able to actually play at that level. But there's still somewhere to play for them, And we right. There's not many stories of lads who will go from grassroots into Premier League, but there is definitely stories in the opposite, going in the opposite. I believe Jamie O'Hara plays for, I'm not sure if it's a Saturday team or a Sunday. He runs a Sunday team, and you know, we've heard of the stories of Stilly and Petrov for Aston Villa playing for a Vets team on Sundays, and there's a platform. Like I say, you're talking about players going into Premier League football, but there's also Premier League footballers going into grassroots football.
Yeah, but the thing is, if there was a situation where there were waves of players coming into professional academies, let's say at 15, 16 from grassroots, then it would be a lot easier for professional teams to invest more into grassroots.
No, Jamal.
In terms of grassroots,
in
terms of grassroots, it needs to be looked at. It needs to be looked at either a charity angle or a giving back angle. It will never be because if you're putting money into grassroots, you cannot expect a return. That's exactly what it is.
Jamal,
what you're investing is in local
incorrect. That's wholly
exercise,
incorrect.
mental health, so on and so forth. You can't say grassroots is a money making exercise. It isn't.
Of course it is. All right.
Okay.
For example, Jamal, independent as it is now, independent youth have put five at the top of my head, 5 players that have gone on to play in the Premier League. Now, that's one small club. That's one man who's been running this club by himself, and he alone has put in 5. You go around the country, you'll find a lot more clubs. You go to there's a club in Newcastle that's had about 10 or 11 that have all gone into the Premier League. Alan Shearer's played for that club. Michael Carrick's played for that club. For you to even sit there and give us this whole argument that, I know you're saying you don't support it, but for you to even give us this argument that grassroots football doesn't create professional footballs is dangerous.
That's not what I said.
Because that's what you've said at different times in this conversation, that grassroots cannot take credit for these players. Now the problem is, if grassroots football wasn't creating these professional footballers, Premier League clubs wouldn't be sending scouts to the grassroots games to go and watch these 10-year-olds, these 11-year-olds, these 12-year-olds. They have been coached by the local community. And yes, they go into academies, but some of them still go back and play with these grassroots clubs. So at the end of the day, grassroots does create a revenue. You've got teams like Chelsea that benefit. They've earned millions from getting players from grassroots clubs and then selling them on. So to have this narrow view that grassroots football isn't creating, so what are they doing? They're just having these men that just go and play. You're missing out. You're missing out the whole thing of grassroots kids football.
Grassroots is the number one aim of grassroots is participation. It isn't to be a stepladder towards the higher level.
Of course it is. For young,
so the
for
number
young
one
children,
is
of course it is. You're talking about men.
Yeah.
When you've got an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old who want their aim is to become a professional footballer, and that's
no,
what
not every 8-9-year-old.
Of course, not every. But when you meet an 8-9-year-old, what do you think? Of course it is. What do you think they're going to do? When they go out on the pitch, Jamal, for the mere fact that they sit there when they score a goal and they find their favourite player and scream their name, what do you think they want to do? They want to be just like that player. Yeah. That's why people complain and say that the image of a professional footballer, they have to keep their image proper because these boys are following them. That's what they want to do. You get a team of 8-9-year-olds. You think they don't want to be professionals?
I don't believe.
You're looking at the top end of things. I don't think you're looking at a wide view of things. Okay? You might have someone you emulate, but a lot of those don't actually want to be a professional footballer.
I don't believe that a 6 or 7-year-old plays football because they think, I just want to play. They play football because what they see on the TV. You think when you were young and you played Wembley or World Cup singles, as soon as you can shout out your favourite players because you watch that player and you want to emulate it.
Exactly. You only need to go out on a Sunday pitch and you watch when players started wearing undersleeves. You watch now, you go to a kids game, they've all got undersleeves because that's what they see. That's what they want to do. They want to they feel it's going to give them that extra advantage to get to be a pro. So if you think they don't want to do.
What is because clearly this is obviously a great debate.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? Because I think I have no trust. I trust the 4 of you a lot more than some other people I probably should trust a lot more. Mostly because it's all about what you do on a day-to-day. And what you do on a day-to-day is football administration, football coaching, direct grassroots football social media, the real things that give you the real expertise. And others don't do that. So where do we go from here? Because I'm telling you, this is how the people who control things think. I don't like it. I don't even fully agree with it. I can see it. I can understand it. What's next? Because asking for funding is not going to happen.
How do you change how do you change their thought process? Because that's a very narrow-minded way. Like, I'm open to ideas, but if they're not going to listen to ideas of the people that are in the community, in their day in day out, then it's never going to change. That's the fact.
Okay, well, answer this one question. Why is it for me to get a scout to go to a grassroots cup game than it is to a grassroots league game?
Say that again. So you cut out.
Why is it easier to get a scout to a grassroots cup game than it is to a grassroots league game? Why is it easier to get a scout to go to a tournament rather than it is to go to a league? That's what my way of changing how those people view things is making the competitions different, making the competitions more exciting. Because a league competition played from August to April or from September to May clearly isn't. It might be a useful way.
Who are you getting to go to these games? When you say it's easier for you to get a scout to go to a league game, who are you referring to? Are you referring to professional clubs? Who are you using as an example?
Yeah.
Because professional clubs go to grassroots game. You've only got to go and turn up to an independent game, and I keep using them as an example because they're the people I see most.
I don't like that example.
Hang on, go back to Accra. When you go back into the earlier time, 80s, 90s, they were having scouts attend every single game because they had a reputation for producing high-level grassroots players who could go into league football. You only got to look at a club like Lambeth All Stars. I guarantee you there are scouts attending their games that are going because they understand the level that they're playing at.
I was at a game. Lambeth played against Wickham. Now, whether it was Wickham's B team at Adams Park, I was there, and they beat Wickham 2-0. I sat there next to the head scout, and he said that he's been in the game a long time. And he actually used the words, it's crazy that we're actually looking at some of these boys. And because the facts are, pro clubs look at other pro club players that have been released and can they get them because they've already been in that environment. Clubs don't want to take a punt on these kids from grassroots because there's too many problems to what they say. But what the head scout was saying, what's his name? And some of these players he's watching is like, why haven't they been picked up? That was his point to where he is now. So the way of thinking is very different. The way we look at things is young people need more opportunity. But people up there, I don't think they want to give them that opportunity. They'd rather find someone that's been in the environment, knows the environment, because it's easier for them.
Yeah, but this is exactly the reason why I said in the beginning when Tabriz posed the question, "What's the future of grassroots football?" Yeah. This is why I said I fear for it because of the mentality that you're saying, Jamal, what you're bringing to us. That's the worry that I have for grassroots football, and that's what I hope where we are having these kind of conversations, we are making these kind of bonds, that we can start raising our voices as a whole and putting it forward to drown out these, for me, incorrect assumptions. There are some talented players playing at grassroots level, but
I don't think you should be worried about it.
Of course I'm worried, because if you're saying to me that they look at grassroots football as a dead area where there is nothing there worth their time, then of course, if I'm looking at something, if I'm the money man and I'm looking at an area that is a dead area, I'm cutting it because it serves me no purpose.
You can know, but it will never be cut. It will never be cut. So let me make that clear.
Because if the money, if we keep losing pitches, what's happened? If you keep losing football pitches, then you are cutting it effectively because teams can't survive.
Down to councils.
Yeah, but
down to councils, yes, but the councils look for funding from central government. Central government can give funding to councils with a specific aim to provide pitches for the local community. When you've got these massive developments that are happening in London, you only got to go into the city and see all the skyscrapers, these massive multi-million-pound developments. It's not, they can put on restrictions that say you must build X, you must build Y, but there has to be a desire for it. And that's where we have to now start questioning those above us, those in positions of power. We have to start actually demanding that they actually start thinking, realizing that we're still here and they have to provide for us. The moment we stay silent, we will be cut.
I mean, to add on what you're saying, social media to me is the key. We have to make it clear because grassroots football has been too easy to be ignored. And now the fact that everyone is building something to see something, you know, Lambeth All Stars. If you keep the same narrow view, why is Lambeth All Stars playing against Wickham Wanderers? How is that even possible? How Sheffield United?
You know how it's possible?
They're bridging that gap through social media, as far as I'm concerned, because people it's easy. You don't go and if you don't go to a grassroots game, how will you see it? Now you don't have to go to a grassroots game. You can see it online. You can see clips of it. You can see training sessions online. For me, that's the way forward. The gap needs to be bridged through social media.
And like, you know what, guys, you know, I think this is a title of like a next show, the future of grassroots, because, you know, everyone's kind of got their own opinions. And you know, again, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Ryan, Jack, Ray, Jamal, honestly, thank you so much. Guys, you've been watching the amateur football at Unhinged. I just want to salute everyone that supports grassroots football. I want to kind of salute everyone that creates content. I salute everyone that's looking to start playing. I'm going to salute all of the future cup winners. I'm saluting anyone that's looking to make grassroots a better game, 100%, without a shadow of a doubt. So, guys, you know what? This is like the end of the show. I thank everyone for like coming on. Please go and subscribe to Your Fresh TV, Caldecott Arms, Independent, and also Jamal Horn, London FA. Go and literally subscribe, follow. All of their stuff is going to be in this video in the description. Thank you for like watching, guys. Hope you know everyone's well. Have a kind of wonderful Sunday and a wonderful week. I bid you guys a beautiful
Been a pleasure,
weekend.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.